Hello guys, welcome back. Today, we dive into the dark and twisted world of grafted. Imagine a brilliant young woman desperate to heal her scars, and the deadly secret she uncovers in her father's forbidden experiments. Spoilers ahead, so brace yourself for a tale of obsession, identity, and horrifying transformation. Then without any delay, let's begin the story. The story starts in China. A little girl named Lena is quietly sketching a strange flower she found in her father's old diary. Her father, a scientist, gently tells her that it's a corpse flower, a rare plant that smells like rotting flesh to attract flies. Then we notice something unusual. Both Lena and her dad have deep scars on their cheeks. Smiling, her father says he's invented something that will make them both beautiful again. He sounds hopeful, maybe too hopeful. He carefully takes a piece of skin from a lab rat, injects it with a glowing liquid, and places it on his own scarred cheek. To Lena's surprise, the scar begins to fade and new skin grows. Her dad is thrilled, finally, his experiment worked. But something's wrong. The skin keeps growing, fast. Soon, it spreads across his face and covers his mouth. Panicking, he tries to cut it off, but the skin just grows back even faster. Lena, terrified, grabs a scalpel and tries to help. She stabs at the spreading skin, but in the chaos, she accidentally kills her father. Everything fades to black. Years pass. Now Lena is all grown up, brilliant, just like her dad once was. But her life isn't easy. She lives with cold relatives who call her weird and treat her like she doesn't belong. One day, everything changes. Lena gets a scholarship to a university in New Zealand. Finally, a chance to escape. Without hesitation, she says yes. When she arrives, her Aunt May is waiting at the airport. They hug, both in tears. Aunt May is separated from her husband and lives with her teenage daughter Ella. So Lena will be staying mostly with Ella, alone. And that's where her new life, and the horror, begins. Aunt May introduces Lena to Ella. Ella just gives a quick hey and walks away casually, not very warm. Lena quietly goes to her new room. There, she gently sets up a small shrine for her late father and softly speaks to him, hoping he can still hear her. The next morning, it's Lena's first day at university. On her way, she meets a homeless man with scars on his face. His name is Jonas. Cut to a lecture hall, a science professor named Dr. Paul is teaching. In the front row, Ella is sitting with her two best friends, Ivy and Jas. They're laughing, whispering, looking confident. Lena, meanwhile, sits quietly at the back, all alone. Dr. Paul hands out test results. To everyone's surprise, Lena is the only one who scored a perfect 100. After class, Lena heads straight to the science lab. She takes out her father's old notebook and begins working on his research again. Dr. Paul walks in and sees her. Lena immediately apologizes for using the lab without permission. But instead of getting angry, Paul notices her notebook. It's handwritten in Chinese. She explains softly, "It's my father's research. I want to finish what he started." Dr. Paul, impressed by her passion, smiles and says, "All right, let's see what you've got." Dr. Paul tells Lena that he's impressed with her passion. He offers her a position as his lab assistant. "If you do well," he says, "I'll let you continue your father's research here." Lena's eyes light up. She's thrilled and accepts right away. After she leaves, Dr. Paul becomes curious. He looks up Lena's father online, and discovers that he was working on experimental skin grafts, something far beyond his time. The next day at university, Lena sees Ella hanging out with Ivy and Jas. Trying to be friendly, she walks over to say hi. Ella clearly isn't excited to see her, but still introduces her to the others. Trying to connect, Lena invites the girls to join her for lunch. She promises to cook her favorite dishes from home. At first, the girls hesitate, but eventually, they agree. During lunch, Lena is all smiles. She feels included. She even takes a selfie with the girls, capturing the moment. But they don't feel the same. Ella looks embarrassed by Lena. She refuses to touch the food. Ivy does the same. Without saying much, the two get up and leave without even trying a bite. Only Jas stays for a moment. She looks at Lena kindly, tries a spoonful, and says, "This is actually really good." Then she quietly walks away. On her way home, Lena bumps into Jonas again. They sit and talk for a while. Lena opens up. She tells him about the scars on her cheek and how she's working on something that might help people like them. Jonas gently smiles and says, "You don't need fixing, Lena. You're already beautiful." Later that day, Dr. Paul finds her again, this time outside, and offers her a ride home. During the drive, he tells her how excited he is about her research. "I really believe we can do something amazing together," he says. He suggests they begin working seriously the very next morning. Lena nods, full of hope. In the following days, the two dive into experiments together. But no matter what they try, nothing works. Lena studies her father's notes and quietly says, "We just need the right binding agent, something that can truly merge the skin tissues." Paul, on the other hand, is growing frustrated. He starts to doubt whether this project is even possible. One afternoon, while they're still in the lab, Jas walks in and casually asks Paul, "Are you looking for another lab assistant?" To Lena's shock, Paul says yes and replaces her with Jas without a second thought. Lena leaves the lab feeling heartbroken. Later, while walking home, Jas runs up to her. She gently says, "I wasn't trying to take your place, Lena. I promise." She looks at Lena's scarf and adds, "You really don't need to hide your face. Your scars don't define you. You're beautiful." Lena doesn't know what to say, but deep down, she realizes that Jas is different from the others. She actually cares. That night, as Lena flips through her father's notebook again, she stops at a sketch. A corpse flower. Suddenly, something clicks in her mind. She grabs her coat and sneaks into a plant nursery. Quietly, she steals a few corpse flowers, hoping they might hold the secret, the binding agent she's been looking for all along. Later that night, she returns to the lab, heart pounding, and begins a new round of experiments with the flowers. But in the other room, something unexpected is happening. Dr. Paul is seen getting intimate with Ivy, Jas's best friend, revealing a hidden relationship. Or maybe just manipulation. Still determined to find the perfect binding agent, Lena does something extreme. She removes a small patch of skin from her thigh and mixes it with the new solution she created using the corpse flower. Then, carefully, she places the skin back on her thigh, and injects the formula into the area. At first, she winces in pain, but then, something incredible happens. The skin begins to heal and blend together, like magic. It works. Meanwhile, in another room, Dr. Paul and Ivy hear noises and realize someone else is in the lab. Paul goes to check and finds Lena. Excitedly, Lena tells him about the corpse flower and how it helped her finally create the perfect formula. But when she shows the healed skin on her thigh, Ivy walks in and completely misunderstands the situation. She quickly snaps a photo of the moment, making it look inappropriate. Then Ivy rushes over, grabs Lena. Confused, Lena leaves with her, but in the rush, she accidentally forgets her father's notebook in the lab. Paul finds the diary and calls a friend, asking for help translating the Chinese notes. Meanwhile, Ivy sends the photo to Ella, the one where Lena is showing her thigh to the professor. Ella sees it, and immediately jumps to the worst conclusion. Furious, she rushes home to confront Lena, but Lena isn't back yet. Somewhere else, Ivy takes Lena to a quiet, empty place. She looks at her coldly and says, "Don't think I don't know what you're trying to do. Stay away from Paul. He's mine." Lena is shocked. "I wasn't trying anything. We're just working on research." But Ivy doesn't believe her. Without another word, she storms off, leaving Lena alone and stranded. Hours pass. Lena finally makes it home, exhausted and covered in dirt. But as she walks in, Ella is waiting, eyes filled with rage. Inside, Lena finds her father's shrine, destroyed. Tears fill her eyes. Ella accuses her of sleeping with the professor. Lena tries to explain, but Ella refuses to listen. An argument breaks out, loud, emotional, and heartbreaking. The argument between Lena and Ella quickly turns into a violent fight. Ella, filled with rage, manages to overpower Lena and pins her to the ground. She begins choking her. Gasping for breath, Lena looks around in panic and grabs a nearby chopstick. In a desperate act of self-defense, she stabs Ella in the eye. Ella falls back and dies. Lena stares at her, horrified. She never meant for this to happen. But now, it's too late. Breathing heavily, she whispers to herself, "I can still fix this." She drags Ella's body to the bathroom, trembling. There, she carefully removes a thin layer of skin from Ella's face. Then, using her secret formula, she injects the tissue and applies it onto her own. Within minutes, the formula begins to work. Lena's features change. Her reflection in the mirror is no longer her own. She now looks exactly like Ella. The flowers really were powerful. Lena touches her new face and softly says, "I'm beautiful." Later that night, Aunt May comes home. She sees Lena's new face and believes she's looking at her daughter, Ella. She suspects nothing. Lena, now living as Ella, feels strangely proud. She decides to continue this life as someone everyone accepts and admires. The next morning, she heads to university, still pretending to be Ella. She's welcomed with smiles, laughter, and attention. She hangs out with Ivy and Jas, and none of them notice the difference. After class, Lena, now Ella, goes on a date with Ella's boyfriend. They drive to a quiet spot deep in the woods. There, he looks into her eyes and says, "I love you." Lena, who has never been loved before, pretends to feel the same. She smiles, and the two begin to grow closer. As Lena and Ella's boyfriend begin making out, everything seems perfect, until something horrifying happens. The skin mask Ella's face suddenly slips off Lena's face and falls right onto him. He stares in shock. Lena's real face is now fully visible, scars and all. Panicking, the boy tries to escape. He runs wildly through the woods, but in his panic, he stumbles too close to the edge and falls off a cliff. Lena screams and rushes to the edge, but it's too late. He's gone. Horrified by what just happened, Lena runs home. Once there, she quickly uses the last bit of her special formula to reattach Ella's face. But the moment it sticks, she realizes something terrible. The liquid is almost gone. Desperate, she begins searching for her father's notebook so she can recreate the formula. She searches everywhere, but it's gone. Then it hits her. Paul. He must have taken it. She tries calling him again and again, but he doesn't answer. That's when she realizes the truth. He's planning to use her father's research and take all the credit. The next day, Lena comes up with a new plan. She invites Ivy over for a sleepover. When Ivy arrives, she immediately notices something strange. Lena shrugs. "Ignore it." But Ivy starts to feel uneasy. She looks around nervously and says, "I think I should head home." Before she can move, Lena suddenly grabs a heavy object and swings it at her head. Ivy screams and bolts outside, running as fast as she can. She hides in the pond near the house, trying not to breathe. But Lena finds her. Without mercy, she plunges a drill into the water and into Ivy's skull. The scene is brutal and silent once again. Afterward, Lena removes Ivy's skin and places it over her own. She even dyes her hair blonde to match Ivy's. The next morning at university, Lena walks in, now looking like Ivy. But something feels off. She notices police officers walking through the campus. They're asking around. They're looking for Ella after her boyfriend was reported missing. When Lena hears that Ella's boyfriend has been found dead, panic floods her. She immediately rushes back home that evening. In a grim, desperate move, she chops up the bodies of Ella and Ivy and throws the pieces into the pond, hoping to hide the evidence. Then, Lena checks Ivy's phone. There, she finds the photo Ivy took in the lab, the one showing Lena's real face. Without hesitation, she sends the photo to the campus authorities, accusing Dr. Paul of having an inappropriate relationship with a student. The scandal destroys Paul's reputation overnight. He's fired from his job. But surprisingly, Paul isn't crushed. He tells himself he's on the brink of a huge scientific breakthrough, something that could change everything. Cut to Paul in his lab, working late into the night. After many failed tries, Paul finally creates the perfect formula, this time using Lena's father's diary as a guide. Excited, he texts Ivy to share the good news and invites her over to celebrate. But Paul doesn't realize that Ivy is not Ivy anymore. It's Lena, disguised as her. Soon after, Lena shows up at Paul's house, pretending to be Ivy. Paul proudly takes out an expensive bottle of wine from a secret compartment. Lena notices this spot and quietly remembers where Paul hides his valuables. While Paul is distracted, she sneaks over and opens the hidden compartment. Inside, she finds a vial containing the new substance Paul created. Suddenly, Lena pretends to feel sick, and she quickly makes an excuse and leaves. After Lena leaves the house with the vial, Paul senses something is wrong. He rushes to check the secret compartment. To his shock, the vial is gone. But he doesn't panic, he still has the notebook. Putting the pieces together, he realizes the girl he saw earlier wasn't Ivy at all. It was Lena, wearing Ivy's face. Back at home, Lena removes her disguise and becomes herself again. Soon after, Jas arrives, worried because she can't find Ella or Ivy anywhere. Lena tells her they're just out on a sleepover. Jas believes her without question. But when Jas opens the refrigerator for a drink, she's horrified to find Ivy's mutated head inside. Before Jas can react, Lena wraps plastic tightly around her head and suffocates her. Later, Paul arrives at Lena's house and finds her visibly upset. He asks, "What have you done?" Lena angrily replies, "It's your fault for stealing my father's work." Paul shrugs off the accusation. He doesn't care about ethics. He says, "You were just my assistant. As the lead scientist, all the credit belongs to me." Then Paul asks for the vial. Lena tells him, "It's in the fridge." Paul excitedly opens it, but his excitement turns to horror. Inside the fridge is Ivy's mutilated head. Before Paul can react, Lena uses the moment to stab him in the neck with a needle. He collapses, unconscious. The next scene shows Paul lying on a table, covered with skin. Paul lies unconscious on a table, his neck shaved bare. Lena carefully applies a new piece of skin onto his neck and injects him with the special formula. Suddenly, his body starts to change, tissue begins to regenerate uncontrollably, just like what happened to Lena's father. Paul screams in agony, begging. Nearby, an elderly neighbor hears the screams and rushes over. Lena drops a straw down Paul's throat to keep him breathing while his skin rapidly grows and takes over. The neighbor arrives just in time to see Lena torturing Paul. Frightened, she manages to run away before Lena can catch her. Now that her secret is out, Lena decides she has to escape. She runs wildly through the town as police begin to chase her. At one point, she finds herself in a subway station, not knowing where to hide. By chance, she meets Jonas, the homeless man from earlier. Desperate, she begs him to hide her under his blanket. He agrees to help, but in her panic, the vial Lena was carrying breaks. The liquid spills onto their skin and causes a horrific reaction. Their bodies grotesquely merge, fused together in a terrifying way. Time passes. Lena, now wanted for several murders, remains missing. The bodies of Ella, Ivy, and Jas are found. Paul is left in critical condition. One evening, Aunt May, still grieving, spots someone on the street who looks just like Lena. She stops her, but is disappointed when she realizes it's not her. Disappointed, Aunt May continues walking, until something catches her eye in a nearby parking lot. She sees a homeless figure sitting alone, covered in a blanket. Curious, she steps closer. The figure looks up and what she sees sends a chill down her spine. It's a grotesque fusion of Lena and Jonas. 4 eyes, twisted, misplaced features, a face that no longer looks human. Aunt May lets out a scream, and runs away in horror. The screen fades to black. And that is the end. It is a chilling tale of obsession, identity, and the cost of perfection. What started as a daughter's tribute to her father's legacy turns into a gruesome descent into madness. Lena's desire to be accepted leads her to wear the faces of others, quite literally, but in the end, she loses her own. The final image of her fused with another, neither fully human nor herself, is a haunting reminder. Some things are never meant to be controlled, not science, not beauty, and certainly not fate. If you liked this video, do hit like, drop a comment, and subscribe for more emotional and spooky summaries. See you in the next video. Until then, never trust a beauty that looks too perfect.